The people you see on the screen are students doing the last design project for this course. That's what you'll be able to do as well, creating a useful product using the design principles of affordances, conceptual models, and signifiers, plus the design skills that you learned in the earlier projects. Now, here's a brief overview of the course. In Lesson 1, we'll ask you to go out and take some photographs, but we'll also show you how to take photographs that tell a story. Sometimes one will be enough, sometimes it might be 4 or 5 photographs. And then we'll learn how to critique them, decide whether this is effective, does it do a good job. In Lesson 2, time to construct something. We're going to have you do a surprising construction, one that, well, guess what? It'll really be pleasurable and fun, unexpected. Lesson 3, we're going to put it all together. That's the capstone course. So in Lesson 3, you have a project that's going to put together all of the principles you've learned and the projects that you've done before. Enjoy. Hey, Kristen, you caught it.
I did.
How come? What made it possible to catch?
Well, it was light enough. It was grippable.
Yeah.
It's about the right size.
So, we call those features affordances. It's about the right size. You can flip it around. You can throw it and catch it. And, you know, you can even hide behind it because it doesn't afford the transmission of light. So, affordance is very important.
Wow, thank you. Hey, there's something inside.
How do you know?
Well, I heard something inside when I shook it.
And that means?
That I have a model that there's an object.
We call those conceptual models.
Oh, is it a gift?
Open it. So what are you looking for?
I'm looking for something that tells me I can open it. Because this lid doesn't open. Ah, there's a tab here that tells me something. It slid out.
Aha, it signifies that you can open it there. And we call that a signifier.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
It's okay.
I'm Christian Simsarian.
And I'm Don Norman.
And I'm Chelsea Glasson. And together, we'll be teaching the design of everyday things.
Look around you. Everything is designed. If you thought a designer was the one who helped you choose curtains, then we'll show you that it's broader and deeper. It's about how things look, how they work, and just as importantly, how they make you feel.
And we're going to give you the scientific principles behind good design, the things that make it understandable. You already know 3, affordances, signifiers, and conceptual models.
We'll also help you take the first steps in designing the world around you yourself.
I'm at IDEO, one of the largest design companies in the world. I'm with Tim Brown, the CEO of IDEO, and Tim has written this very interesting book, Change by Design, which includes, among other things, a big section on the importance of design thinking. So Tim, design thinking. One of the points you argue is that it doesn't just make you a better designer, it makes you better at anything. Tell us about that.
I've always thought one of the wonderful things about being a designer is not just that I get to work on lots of exciting projects, but it helps me in my life, right? So when it's something as simple as I'm going to throw a dinner party for some friends, so I start, instead of just turning up at 7 o'clock and thinking about what I'm going to make, I actually design that. I try and design that experience. I think, well, who am I going to bring together, and what's the space going to be like, and how does the food and the space work together? All of these things that I naturally think about as a designer. And I think that's what design thinking does for you. It's a set of tools that allows you to approach life, particularly the parts of life where it might be advantageous to solve a problem differently. And it allows you to approach that with some level of kind of confidence because you've got some ways of going about it. And we have we're taught at school many ways of analyzing problems, of picking them apart and studying little pieces of them. That's very valuable. But design thinking gives you a different way of tackling a problem, often one that's centered around the needs of the people you're trying to solve for. That might be yourself. It might be a customer if you're in a professional environment. It might be your colleagues in a work environment, but it's centered around that. And so it starts with thinking hard, looking hard, listening hard, and trying to study people and understand, in this instance, what their issues might be, what their problems might be, how they're thinking, how they're navigating the world or dealing with the world at hand, and then using that as the starting point for having ideas.
Mm-hmm. I often describe it, don't solve the problem. In fact, as a consultant, never solve the problem you're given, but figure out what the real problem is.
Yeah, figure out what the question is. I mean, many of us think when people talk about creativity or design, they think it's all about solving the problem and being creative about that. But I find generally the most interesting solutions come out of the most interesting questions. And so that insight about what the problem might really be is often the most important and the biggest creative step. And so if you just assume you know the question, then especially if it's the same question that everybody else is asking, then you'll probably get to the same answer that everybody is getting to. But if you study a little bit and think a little bit and maybe look at things from a slightly different perspective, really get under the skin of the people that you're trying to serve, it's surprising how often you end up completely reframing the question.
And so, as you point out, this could be used by anybody, a business person, an artist, a journalist, anybody.
I mean you can think about how you use it. I mean, one of the things I talk about in my book is ways of applying design thinking to your own life. I mean, think about your career. How can I apply a design thinking approach to my career, to the choices I make, or absolutely how you apply it in your workplace, no matter what you do. You might work in the finance department of a company and be thinking, well, how could I find more creative solutions to the way that the processes that work within our organization, or the way that we come together as people. And so I think whatever your background, if you have the tools to hand, the thinking tools to hand, and the confidence to use them, that design can be of great help.
Thank you.
Here's a picture of the seat heater control in my car. When I push the control, it prompts the highest temperature, and then I can push again to lower the temperature. This design is confusing to me because it's not in alignment with my conceptual model of how temperature control should work. Most temperature controls I've encountered start with the lowest temperature and then move to the highest temperature. I wonder why the designer designed it this way. What would your guess be? For the example of understandable design, here's my iPhone's text messaging feature. The design is pretty straightforward. The interface guides me through entering text into the 2 required fields, and then once complete, the send button is activated. It's hard to make a mistake here, in large part because it's easy to discover what to do and because of the excellent feedback provided during interaction. That said, there's usually always room for improvement in design. How could this design be improved? And now back to Don with examples in the world.
The photograph shows a TIG, T-Y-G, a multi-handled cup widely used in Europe in the 15th through 17th centuries, and in the Pilgrim colony at Plymouth, Massachusetts, in the United States, in the 1620s. As the picture below shows, the multiple handles make it really easy to share a cup. You can give it to a person on the left or right. If you want 3 people, say, want to drink from the same cup, but they each use a different handle, then they drink from different spots on the rim. The multiple handles are signifiers, as well as useful affordances for sharing. These are really useful. Why they've dropped out of favor, I don't know. The only place where you can buy them, as far as I know, is the Plymouth Plantation in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where they try to recreate 17th century living.
So I want you to think about the first few minutes or seconds when you're interacting with a product for the first time. What do you typically do? You might play with it, look for directions. I don't know, you might even smell it. Basically, you're figuring out how to use it. And what supports that process? Well, signifiers and affordances. Here I have a chair, which affords sitting. This affordance exists because of the shape of the chair combined with the abilities and shape of the human body. The same chair does not afford sitting for an elephant. An affordance is the relationship between an object, such as a chair, and a person. Affordances enable particular kind of interaction between people and objects. And the presence of an affordance is jointly determined by the properties of the object and of the abilities of the person who is interacting with the object.
This card shows two excellent examples of door design. So, black, so you can see that this is the handle, and a space, you can insert the hand. So it makes it obvious. You put your hand in here and you pull. Now over here, a vertical door handle. Again, nicely done. Space, makes it obvious, the hand can fit. Vertical slot, put my hand in and pull. One car, two different door handles, both well designed. Affordances provide the opportunity for actions. Anti-affordances prevent otherwise possible actions. So these bars appear to be examples of anti-affordances, bars that prevent cars, trucks, and other large vehicles from driving on the road. And anti-affordances are quite useful in many situations. But these bars only look like anti-affordances. They clearly signify non-passage, but look at the photographs. While the vertical bars appear to signify that an automobile can't pass over them, in this case they're fake. They're false anti-affordances. They signify non-passage, but in fact they allow it. How? Well, they bend when a car passes over them, or as shown in the photo, if someone steps on them.
Signifiers are communication devices that tell people what to do and where to do it. Think about it. People oftentimes need some way of understanding a product or service they wish to use, some sign of what it is for, what is happening, and what the alternative actions are. People search for clues for any sign that might help them cope and understand. And these signs are called signifiers.
Let me illustrate the use of signifiers. How do you start and stop this video? Feel free to experiment. See that right pointing triangle down there? That's a pretty universal symbol to mean play. Click on me to play the video. And when you click on it, it changes to two vertical bars. Again, pretty universal symbol for pause. Click on me to stop the video. Now, how would you know that before you ever experienced it? Usually you have to be told, or sometimes they label it play and pause. But once you've learned it, it's the same all over. So that simplifies things. But hey, there's more. Click any place on the screen. It stops the video. Click again, it starts it. Pretty neat, huh? But no visible signifier. How would you ever learn that? You just have to know. Oh, and while you're at it, double click. What happens? So what do you think? These invisible signifiers that make it easier to do the thing, is that good design or bad design? You know, modern cars may still have a keyhole, but you don't have to use it. As long as the key is nearby, it senses that you're an authorized driver. So, how do I unlock this car? I just put my hand inside and watch. It unlocks. Nice. Really simple, easy. It turns on the interior lights too, so I can see inside when it's dark. Now suppose I leave and I want to lock the car. How do I do it? You can't see, but there's a little ridged area here, and if I touch it, watch, it locks. Oh, but I left all the windows open and the sunroof open. Do I have to open the car and go in and manually shut them? No, there's a secret way of shutting it. Secret. See, if I hold my finger here for a little while, the window's shut. And the sunroof shuts. But it is a secret. How do you ever learn it? Well, it's in the manual. But who reads the manual? It's a big, thick manual. People don't read the manual. I know lots of people who own this car who are not aware that they can shut all of the windows and sunroof without going back inside. Nice feature. Hard to know about it. That's clearly the door handle, but there's no perceived affordance. So it's a signifier that this is the handle, but it's only half a signifier. It tells where the handle is, but not what to do. So, I don't know, how do you open it?
Hi, Don. How are you? What are you doing with my car?
Trying to understand how to open it. What did you do?
Oh, well, I have the key, so it knows that I'm coming, so it automatically opens.
Oh, that's clever. This is a really good example of hiding the perceived affordance, hiding the signifier, because you don't need to have it there. The owner of the car knows how to use it, and when the owner of the car comes near with a key, it automatically opens. You can grab the handle. That's very clever design. You know, I bet you're curious what the stuff you're learning has to do with real design. We've talked about affordances and signifiers and a little bit about conceptual models. Well, here's some real design. Let's talk about it. See this? It's a tape dispenser. And we have the tape and something designed at the end so it doesn't stick, and the holder, the dispenser, and look at this, the packaging. The designer has to think it all through. It isn't enough to design the product. You have to design how it's mounted, the packaging, instruction manuals, even the box in which it's shipped. That's kind of what's exciting about design. It's the whole system. One of the most important things we want you to learn from this course is to develop the eye of a designer. So you should be walking around the world looking all the time, looking at things around you, judging, saying, that's a really good example, or, ooh, that's a bad example. But when you do this, it's really good to document it, not only for your own benefit, because you want to show them to other people. You might want to show them to clients. You might want to give a talk and illustrate the points. So you have to have pictures, and the pictures have to be effective, show exactly the point you're trying to make, and tell a story. So it may take several pictures of the same object to tell the story. So in this next assignment, we're going to cover that. So let's start off, though, with what it takes to make a good picture. First of all, the camera. You know, it doesn't do any good to have a great camera if it isn't with you. So the most important aspect about a camera is have it with you. So take a look at this one, cell phone camera. It's always with you. That's a virtue. Problem is, it's not really a good camera. It can't be. It's just too small. So if you want to take a picture and the object you have is really small and you want to enlarge it, nah, cell phone camera isn't good enough. But in an emergency, this is the best camera to use. I use it all the time. The really best camera would be something like this. This is a single lens reflex. It takes high quality pictures. It's a very big detector, high quality lens, but it's big, it's bulky. So I myself don't use it. I would love to, but I just can't imagine carrying it with me all the time. So I compromise. I carry a medium-sized camera, carefully chosen so it's of the highest quality, that's small enough, though, that it will fit in my pocket, or it fits in a bag on my belt. Has a good lens, has a fairly large sensor, so it takes high-quality pictures that I can blow up. And all the pictures in the Design of Everyday thing that I took were taken with this camera. Second point, take lots of pictures. Don't take one picture. Don't sit there and just try to take one or two. Professionals might take hundreds of pictures just to get one. So take lots of pictures from different angles, different zoom lenses, closer, further away, and with different lighting. Don't use flash. Flash wipes out all the details. But make sure, turn on all the lights, and maybe use a piece of white paper as a reflector. Do whatever you can do to light it as well as you can, naturally. You know, the point about taking these pictures is to tell a story, to communicate. Don't try to win an art contest. Don't try to win a photography contest. Don't have artistic lighting that puts some things in shadow or in the dark. We want to show the design features. What's really important for the designer to understand, or for you to tell the story to your audience. So, let's take a look. Here's a picture of a train station. I wanted to show that accidental social cues can serve as signifiers. You know, when you rush to the train platform, how do you know if you missed the train? Well, if there are people waiting, you probably didn't miss it. If it's empty, oops, maybe you did. So to tell this story, I had to get to the train platform long before the train was scheduled to arrive, carefully lean against a post so I wasn't going to change my position, and take pictures as the people arrived. More and more pictures, because I didn't know when the train would come. When the train finally came, I then waited until the train left and the platform was empty, and I took the last picture. Was it worth it? Yes. To tell the story of the destination control elevator took a lot of pictures and some editing, and even adding a label to understand the picture. The photos took a lot of work with the photo application because I had to crop the photos so you could put them together properly. And I cropped the photos so when I wanted to show the controls, you saw only the control and nothing else that was distracting. So 4 different pictures to tell the story. But once again, it was worth it. Sometimes a single photo is enough to make the point. You don't always have to have a sequence of photos. So here's one, a picture of push and pull doors. Same hardware in both doors, yet one is push and one is pull. I cropped the original photograph and I darkened the glass so the objects behind the window were not as visible. That's okay to do. It would not be ethical to fake it, to put objects in that really weren't in the scene, or to take away things that really were present.
Here's your first project. Go out and find a signifier that's confusing to you or others. Document that with photographs like you just learned. So here's your challenge. How are you going to fix it? How would you make it better? How could it be less confusing? Take materials that you find anywhere and improve upon it so it's not confusing. Then submit all that, and later I'll show you a solution for a signifier that I found confusing and how I decide to fix it. Well, here we are in my example of a confusing signifier. It's this door plate thing. Well, actually, I'm not sure what to call it, because this is a door handle, and this, I thought, was something I could push on to open the door, and I can't open it. No matter how hard I push it, I can't. Well, it turns out it's not a door. This is a wall, a glass wall. And they put this plate here, and I thought I could push on it, and I can't. So that's a confusing signifier. Now let's look at that for a second. Why is it so? Well, it seems that there's a lock mechanism here, and the lock mechanism, see inside, is about this big. Well, I think the designer wanted to have some symmetry, so they made these 2 plates the same size. But in so doing so, they have kind of an aesthetic form there, but they've created a function, or a false signifier, that is confusing. So how might we make this better? Well, let's see. Let's assume we want to hide the lock. Maybe we just want to make this smaller and keep this symmetry here. So we might make a plate this big. Well, that would be really too small to put my whole hand on it. I don't think I would confuse that for a plate. Or if I just wanted to hide the lock, maybe I could make something really small, like that. Either way, it would be a little bit better, because I feel like if I push this too hard, I might actually do some damage to this glass wall. Here's the end of lesson 1. We've learned a couple of things, affordances and signifiers. For many people, this is surprising. It's a new word for something that they've walked around the world with thinking about, but not having a term for it. What was new and surprising for you?